Consider this scenario. You're a hospital administrator overseeing the installation of a brand new MRI machine. Would you feel comfortable letting your MRI technologist operate the machine on hospital patients if you knew they were not trained to use it? Consider another scenario. You're the manager of a manufacturing company whose employees operate dangerous equipment. Would you feel safe knowing that your employees never learned how to use said equipment? Now consider one more scenario. You work at a law enforcement agency and your job is to manage newly recruited police officers. Would you be okay with sending these officers into the field with no training? No is the obvious answer to any of these situations. Any competent manager would ensure that these workers are adequately trained to perform their tasks appropriately. It follows then that the job training is a critical part of developing the skill sets needed for workers to perform well in the industry. But sometimes job training programs run high costs. Employees oftentimes must funnel resources so that new hires can develop their skills constructively with something tangible. Not only do these training programs cost money, they also run certain risks, especially for jobs that require physical labor. Take the three scenarios we mentioned earlier, for example. In the MRI example, our MRI technologist must become accustomed to an actual MRI scan before performing the procedure on real patients, a task which on average costs $2,611 in the United States. In the manufacturing example, experienced workers must spend time to train new workers, which reduces manufacturing productivity. The new hires must also practice on the equipment, which poses certain risks, as a simple mistake could lead to severe injury or death. In the law enforcement example, police officers must go through field training and simulations of real-world scenarios before tackling actual field work. Failure to do so could lead to the mishandling of high-stress situations and could even result in fatal consequences. Recently, the federal government announced that it would be cutting the Department of Labor's job training budget by 40%, from $2.7 billion to $1.6 billion. This raises a question. On a reduced budget, how should organizations invest in developing their own people without sacrificing performance? Enter mixed reality. Mixed reality, or MR, is the blending of real and virtual environments where physical and digital objects coexist and interact in real time. MR offers its users the ability to see, hear, and interact with virtual or imaginary environments. While its most commonly thought of application is as a video game peripheral, MR also offers a solution to the costly and risk-prone job training programs that currently exist across every industry. With only an MR headset, organizations have safer and cheaper options to train their workers without having to expend physical resources or sacrificing the productivity of experienced workers. Let's see how this solution might apply to our MRI example. Using Microsoft's HoloLens MR peripheral, our team designed a holographic app to demonstrate the capabilities of MR and its applications to this scenario. The scenario and procedures were carefully designed according to a video demonstrated by the Via Christi Hospital. With three-dimensional visualization and other features of the MR headset, technologists in training may have a better understanding of the procedures involved and will be given an opportunity to interact with patients in a virtual simulation.
Legs up.
Integrated voice recognition software could identify certain keywords and tell the simulation to conduct a proper visual response. This would enable the user to communicate with the virtual patient.
Press pillow. Press headphone.
The user can also use gestures to interact with the virtual environments. In this example, a pillow and a pair of headphones are placed accordingly. The user can move other medical equipment if necessary, and when appropriate can engage the MRI control interface. This application only demonstrates a simple MRI walkthrough, but it would be possible to simulate dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of other complicated medical treatments. For example, imagine a simulation designed for medical students in which artificial intelligence governs a patient's behavior, where the user can imitate having a conversation regarding medical treatment with the patient. Imagine if we could evaluate and provide feedback to the clinical judgment a student made. What if we could use the shared experience feature to have multiple people collaborate on a virtual cancer treatment? Geraldine Francis, head of Kingston School of Radiography, said, "Students need to make mistakes because they will learn more effectively. They wouldn't be allowed to make a mistake in a department." According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, there are 12.4 million healthcare employees in the United States today. That means we have the potential to reduce risk and training costs for 12.4 million jobs in this sector alone. It's easy to further apply this solution to the other aforementioned examples. In the manufacturing scenario, the MR peripherals can fully render virtual interactive equipment. Instead of subjecting trainees to actual equipment, which has the potential to harm other employees, new hires can safely practice in a virtual sandbox. In the law enforcement scenario, officers in training can practice their aim with virtual firearms and targets. This reduces the expense to taxpayers because it eliminates the need to purchase real bullets and props for training. In fact, law enforcement agencies have already begun using similar technologies in the real world. In Virginia, the Norfolk Police Department has installed a virtual reality simulator using the Virtra V300, which wraps 300 degrees around users. This simulator places officers in pre-rendered scenarios and forces them to choose in real time whether they should shoot suspects, use tasers, or pepper spray. While this isn't exactly a mixed reality application, it certainly works in the same vein. As you can see, job training doesn't have to be expensive or potentially lethal. Mixed reality technology reduces cost in the long run and minimizes the risk involved with physical labor. No longer is MR just a peripheral for video games. It is a real practical solution that has applications in all industries. This has been a Blog Team 9 presentation. Thank you for watching.